Are Manchester City really in crisis? Have Chelsea finally turned a corner? And are Arsenal going to win the league?
So, quick disclaimer, the microphone didn't exactly work. So in this episode, I sound like this. And usually, I should sound like this. Apologies, it will be fixed for the next video.
Hey guys, welcome back to the SGFC Football Podcast. Another weekend of Premier League football is over and we had some big results for big teams, both at the top and the big teams that are kind of struggling in mid-table right now. So let's get straight into it. There is really only one place to start, and that is Arsenal versus Manchester City. Arsenal finally beat Manchester City at the 15th time of asking in the Premier League. The last time they beat them was the 21st December 2015, but it must feel like Christmas has come early. It's a huge result. It puts Arsenal 2 points clear of Manchester City, who are sitting in third right now, and gives them a huge boost in confidence. What does this mean for the title race, though? Nothing. It's far too early for us to start talking about title races. Does this give Arsenal the advantage? Are Manchester City going to blow up and implode? We're 8 games in. We've got 30 more to go. Let's all calm down. No one's won anything just yet. But what it does do for Arsenal is give them that goddamn confidence. They were so close last season to really pipping Man City until it all fell apart in the last month. But with this young group of players, being able to beat the most well-drilled and well-oiled machine in the Premier League over the last 5-6 years is phenomenal. It gives them that confidence to go out there and say, we can beat anyone. They have a very favourable run of games coming up. If you exclude Chelsea, who are kind of on the up, and Liverpool, who you don't really know what you're going to get with them, every week, there is a chance they could get maximum points up until Christmas. And then we start talking about titles. They have been quite fortunate with injuries so far. We've seen teams like Manchester City, Chelsea and Man United really suffer with huge injury lists, particularly Chelsea and Man United at the moment. Arsenal steer clear of that. They had that last season with Jesus being injured. They've got Saka out at the moment, but it doesn't seem to be a long-term injury, although he won't be playing for England in this upcoming international break, which is huge news for Arsenal. They don't have to worry about any additional injuries. He can have a rest, get recuperated, and come back. Do I really think they'll go unbeaten until Christmas? I don't think so. There's going to be a slip-up somewhere. They are unbeaten so far, which is fantastic for them. Them and Spurs, they've done really, really well. There's been a few issues where maybe they could have fallen, maybe they could have lost, but they brought it back. Unbeaten so far. I just don't see them holding it up till Christmas. There will be an injury somewhere along the line to an Odegaard, to a Martinelli, to a Declan Rice, who have now all made themselves integral parts of this machine. And what Arsenal really have this season that they didn't have last season is a bit of depth. They can bring on players that can just make a difference in a game rather than just bringing on youngsters to fill a squad number or just make up the last 15 minutes because everyone else is knackered. They've actually got quality players on the bench now. I'm not going to mention Havertz and those quality players. I still don't know where this guy plays in the Arsenal team. It just doesn't make sense. He doesn't seem to contribute anything at the moment. But all is looking good for Arsenal. Manchester City, on the other hand, are they a club in crisis? They have lost 2 Premier League games in a row. You've got to go back to December 2018 when Manchester City lost 2 consecutive Premier League games in a row. Unbelievable stats there. Over nearly 5 years of not losing 2 games in a row in the Premier League is unheard of. But it's kind of ridiculous that people are now saying that Manchester City are in crisis. This is a club with more money than God. One of the greatest tactical managers of a generation, perhaps of all time. A squad that is worth over £1 billion. It's going to take an awful lot for this club to go into crisis. Yes, they are out of the Manchester City Cup, otherwise known as the EFL Cup, but they will be fine. It'll be interesting, actually, to see how Manchester City reply to this. Like I said, they haven't lost 2 games in a row in nearly 5 years. And it'll be interesting to see how can they adapt to this, how they can figure out how to get out of this sort of mini slump and put themselves back on the right track. Obviously, they have the players for it. Obviously, they have the manager for it. They have the tactical nous. I just want to see how it happens. Will Haaland start scoring again? He hasn't scored in 3 games, I believe, which for him is unheard of. Are we seeing little cracks? Probably. But again, this is a team that has won 5 of the last 6 Premier League titles. They are allowed to lose 2 games in a row. It just happens, okay? We've got to get over it. Stop calling this a crisis. It's a blip. A very small blip on the very large Manchester City map. Man City, though, can count themselves lucky. How did Kovacic stay on the pitch? His first challenge on Odegaard on the 28th minute could have easily been a red card. VAR looked at it for a red card offence. He slid in from behind, got none of the ball, and made full contact with Odegaard's ankle. I was fully expecting this to be a red, and I was shocked it was only yellow, honestly. But then his second challenge, you're on a yellow. You don't go making stupid slides. You challenge Declan Rice, who there is no danger at all. I mean, he's only just been past the ball from David Raya. There's no pressure on Man City. There's no need for him to slide in and make the challenge. If the first one was a yellow, this one had to be a yellow as well. All within sort of 6 minutes of each other as well. I don't know what was going through his head. Honestly, I'm not sure, because for Chelsea, he did a lot of the hard, dirty work. He was always sliding, he was pushing himself about, interrupting the play of the opposition. In this Manchester City team, though, you fill a role. Your role is very defined and very, definitive in what you've got to do. And going out and making challenges like that isn't part of that role. He should have been sent off. Absolutely should have been. It'd be very, very lucky. He's a very lucky boy. Man City are very lucky that he's going to be available for the next games, given the constant injuries to Kevin De Bruyne, who doesn't seem to be back for another few months. He's going to be vital in that midfield. And yeah, overall, though, Arsenal, massive winners, big confidence boost. But again, Premier League referees, you need to have a look at yourselves for these sending-offs. But let's talk about teams that needed a bit of a break and a little bit of luck. Manchester United coming back from 1-0 down against Brentford to win 2-1. Scott McTominay scoring in the 93rd and 97th minute. Be honest, hands up, who saw this coming? That's right, none of you. Absolutely no one saw this coming. The amount of fans that left Old Trafford at sort of the 87th, 88th minute when Scott McTominay actually came on as a sub. Yeah, I saw a video, I think it was on TikTok, of all the fans sort of like streaming down the streets, and you can hear the stadium in the background cheering, and then they all start cheering. It's like, well, you guys, that's why you never leave. Even if you're like 6-0 down, fair enough, but you're 1-0 down with like 10 minutes to play. But like I said, Man United needed this result. Big loss in the Champions League in midweek to Galatasaray, and it looked like this was heading the same way. Poor goal conceded, Casemiro giving the ball away, and Onana, he just gets worse and worse every week. This guy is worse than David De Gea, who has like a 2-hour video on YouTube of fail compilations. And Onana is racking those minutes up quickly. For me personally, it's an area that Man United need to look at in January. They have to get a replacement in. This is simply not good enough. He is a Champions League level goalkeeper who just is not performing. The fact they got him in on a free means that there's no real financial obligation. You haven't thrown a lot of money down the drain, but you have to get a better goalkeeper than this. It can't go on. For a club that has aspirations of playing in the top 4, you need to rely on your goalkeeper. You need to have someone you can rely on. And some people will say, and I know there'll be comments that will say, oh, but look at the defence he's playing behind, Maguire and Johnny Evans. That's not the point. The point is, even these simple chances like this one they conceded against Brentford, it was an easy chance. It was an easy save. You put your hand out, collect the ball, done. We mentioned the one a few weeks ago against Nottingham Forest where he just sort of sat down. He's one-on-one with the striker and he sat down and couldn't jump and get the ball. He's been beaten from the halfway line in pre-season. It's just a catalogue of errors on his part. Nothing to do with the defence here. For me, get a new goalkeeper in. There are options. Maybe I should do a little video on best replacements for Onana after 6 months. Scott McTominay, though, bloody hell, I have given this guy stick in the past on previous episodes of the SGFC podcast. Overhyped, overrated. Wasn't he on the cover of Pez one year? And I think they all got to his head. But 2 solid goals. The fact that he only came on like 5 minutes before the first one is unreal. Such a good touch to bring the ball down and a good finish. The second one, good header on from Harry Maguire. good, well done to him. A really fantastic cameo. Something that Man United have sorely needed. Players that come on and make the difference. We've seen Garnacho at the back end of last season and on occasion this season, but mainly last season, of him coming on and providing an impact. And McTominay has done that today. When the big players have been miserable recently, especially Casemiro, it's good to know for Man United fans that you have a holding mid who is pretty handy in front of goal and is one of your homegrown players, essentially. Been there since he was a kid. It's always really good to see. Obviously, though, the win is just a plaster over the crack that is tearing a house in half. The overall state of Man United, this is a club in crisis. The ownership debacle is getting silly at this point. The fact that Glazers will not sell up, that Ineos are now looking at a minority stake rather than a full takeover, and the Qatari bid seems to have petered out. They don't know what's happening. Apparently, there's lots of information that is not being given to prospective bidders, which probably means that Glazers are here to stay. Old Trafford is falling apart. You're bottom of your Champions League group, 0 points so far this season, and 12 points from 8 games, making it one of the worst starts in Manchester United history. The pressure is on Ten Hag. Some people have been calling for Ten Hag to go. I don't think that's the right option here. He seems to be cultivating a good mentality with a group of players, trying to get them all on side. They just need some more quality. They need more players like McTominay in this instance that come on and make an impact. Not players like Varane, like potentially Onana and Casemiro, who they've won it all. They have nothing to prove. So they don't need to go the extra mile. All of them have got multiple Champions Leagues except Onana. They don't really have much to fight for at this point in their career, do they? Is this the time for Erik Ten Hag to leave? Of course not. There are lots of behind-the-scenes issues. Some I've already mentioned. Also the off-field issues with Jadon Sancho and Antony, which isn't helping things. But overall, this is a guy you can get behind. He seems very steadfast in all the problems that are going on. He seems very resolute in that he knows what he's got to do. Is this, the right time to get rid of him? Stick with him. There are issues within the team. Yes, Mason Mount not performing anywhere near the standards that were expected when his transfer came in. Like I said, Casemiro, Varane, Onana, all causing problems right now. But there are good players in this team. Bruno Fernandes has underperformed this season, but we all know the skill and qualities in there. Same with Rashford, same with Garnacho as well. There are players you can use. And I think he will be able to get them out of this. It's not over yet. We are, like I said, for the Arsenal game, we're very early in the season. Let's not all get sack happy 8 games in, shall we? And finally, a club that is moving from crisis to potentially turning a corner. Chelsea came from behind to claim a 4-1 victory over Burnley. And as a Chelsea fan myself, I've got to say, welcome back, Raheem Sterling. This season and most of last, this guy was on the bad side of pretty much every Chelsea fan I spoke to at Stamford Bridge. Everyone was on his back, including me. I'll hold my hands up. The guy didn't ever seem like he was bothered. He never seemed like he wanted to put the effort in, to drive the extra mile and sort of be the leader in this team. It's weird to think, but Sterling is one of the more experienced and older players in this group now. And you watch him play and he was never grabbing the rest of the team, never saying, right, I'm playing to this level. You guys are here, bring it up to my level. He was always seems to be very content with just going with the flow. But this season, especially the last 2 or 3 games, he's gone into overdrive. He's gone back into the Sterling of Manchester City Premier League title Sterling. He got his 3rd goal of the season. He got 2 assists, if you count the assist for the own goal as well. He was an absolute menace on that left-hand side. And it's what Chelsea fans want to see more of. This attacking Chelsea side can be really dangerous. Now they've set up that Mykhailo Mudryk can actually play football, that Sterling can also actually play football in a Chelsea shirt. And Cole Palmer seems to be getting more and more confident with every game. It can be a very good attacking unit. Cole Palmer getting his first goal from the penalty. I think this is 3 assists in 3 games for him now, which is fantastic. A lot of questions, again, including myself, the cynical Chelsea fan, were raised when his transfer went through in the very last sort of days of the transfer window. £40-odd million for someone who hasn't played a lot of Premier League football. He's being a real connection between the rest of midfield and the other front 2 players. He has been deployed on the right-hand side of attack, but he tends to find himself moving further inside. Conor Gallagher going out on the right to cover. He is linking things up so nicely right now, and I was really happy for him to get his first goal. Does this mean Chelsea are out of crisis? Absolutely not. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. They've won 3 games in a row, one in the League Cup, granted. But it is something that Mauricio Pochettino can start working with. These young players, a lot of them who were at the club last season, only really know defeat in a Chelsea shirt and don't know what it means to be pushing up the league, what it means to be getting wins together. It's something they can feed off and something they can build on. We've seen in his interviews Pochettino talking about building the players' confidence with people like Mudryk, who've been sitting behind in training and playing crossbar challenge to help build their confidence. And hopefully he's doing that with other players as well. I'm sure he is. To start gelling this team together a bit more now, because it does seem to be working. The fact that he's brought Marc Cucurella back in, granted out of necessity more than anything else, thanks to a Gusto red card and the Reece James injury, Cucurella's been playing really well. Like, for the first time ever for Chelsea, he looks like a competent right back, which isn't his real position. And he's doing so well. It might be, maybe it's another Azpilicueta situation. If you remember when we first bought him, he was a left back and then reverted to a right back / centre back and stayed there ever since. Is this the resurrection of Marc Cucurella? I hope so. I really do, because the last couple of games he has impressed me, and it seems like he's found a bit of mojo. So may it continue, Marc Cucurella. Do I think Chelsea will be challenging for the top 4 this season? It's still a no from me. They will be, I say, lucky. Their real aim has got to be any form of European football, whether that be Conference League, Europa League, Champions League, obviously being the big target. I think there are too many teams at the moment performing to too high of a level for Chelsea to be able to catch them at this point. I'm still slightly suspect on Pochettino. Again, 3 wins in a row. It doesn't cover up all the mistakes we've seen beforehand and the shakiness that this Chelsea team can provide. I think a solid 6th or 7th position would be very, very good for them. We've seen the likes of Newcastle, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, Aston Villa, Brighton, even West Ham to a certain aspect, all picking up good points, all being fairly consistent. So it's going to be a challenge for Chelsea. Will they do it? Obviously, I hope so as a Chelsea fan, but I don't think so. Let's see what happens. We've got an international break now for all teams, to sort of a little bit of recuperation for those that aren't going away with their respective nations, figure out a few more things, get a few more tactical ideas going. I will be returning in 2 weeks' time when the Premier League resumes after this international break. I'm not happy about it. I know you're not happy about it. Let's breathe. We'll get through it, and the Premier League will come back stronger. In the meantime, I'll be putting out some more content with all Premier League action. If there's anything you want to talk about or let me know about, drop it in the comments down there. And there's also a little subscribe button. Hit it. It does magical things. Until you hit it, you won't find out. Hit it. Really helps the channel. Really appreciate the growth. But for now, I've been Greg of the SGFC, and I'll see you next time.